more expensive and more power. It's what we all really want, right? Well, thanks for tuning in to Electric Bike Journal. In this video, we're gonna be discussing the differences between Shimano's EP801 and the EP6. Simultaneously, we'll also be able to talk about two different internally shifting rear hub systems. Oh no.
Helping us with that comparison, we have two of the same bikes, just different drive units from Orbea, and that is the Diem. Dustin over there has the Diem10, which has the Shimano EP801 drive unit. Over here, I have the Diem20, which has the Shimano EP6 unit.
Well, there are some other little differences between the bikes, but they shouldn't matter or play too much of a role when it comes to climbing up hills or maintaining speed down the road. So for now, there's a few simulations that we're gonna be putting these bikes through side by side to see how they perform. And then we'll come back and share our experience and our overall thoughts between the two systems.
All right, let's get to riding.
All right. Well, we got a 3/4 of a mile stretch here, a pretty decent grade. And I have a cadence set to 68 on the Enviolo, which we'll see how that works for going up these hills. The bike itself is in full turbo mode, so full power output. And we are recording down there on the screen, so you can see, my speed, how hard I'm working. The idea is average effort. I don't want to push in too hard. I don't want to keep my speed up to get up this hill.
EP6 motor definitely has some power to it. And having this Nexus 5-speed hub, I can pick which gear I want to be in, so that is also helpful. Don't have to rely on the automatic shifting, so if I want to bring my cadence up, I can do that, or shift a little harder. And I'm not sure if maybe that Enviolo is just not getting him in the right gear, but I'm not trying that much harder.
Oh no. Looks like I might need to change my cadence.
And I've done this climb plenty of times on my analog bike, and it's pretty tiring, so feels good to be able to jump on the e-bike. Gets a good level of assist. And he's pretty far back there. Maybe he's not trying as hard as I am. But we got to one of the crests, and like all mid-drive motors, when you put more power down, gives it back to you with that torque sensor. So if you want to go faster, you got to put some work into it. All right, let's see where he's at. Gotcha.
Well, definitely have the wrong cadence.
That's the benefit of the 5-speed Nexus hub, that I can choose which gear I want to be in.
I'm just gauging overall energy put out to maintain speed. Now, being able to refine your gearing on a climb like this means that I could really turn up my pedal cadence. I'll be spinning more, and my relative effort is going to decrease. So it's like having an extra gear. May not be going as fast uphill, but your heart rate can stay lower. You can have a conversation if you're riding with someone.
Yeah, like we mentioned before with this Nexus 5 speed, you don't have a lot of gears, but the way it's geared, you have a good amount of choices for most of the scenarios that you're going to be in, especially in the highest pedal assist mode. And when you're going downhill, you got to get in that highest gear to keep up with what that motor is going to do. And looks like that DM10 might be geared a little higher so he can just cruise at that moderate speed.
And now I'm actually overspinning and can drop that cadence down even further.
He's got me by a little bit, but he might have been trying a little harder. But I think that thing just has a little bit of higher gearing on there. All right, here we go. More rollers on the way back, and just started in the easy gear. Just gonna keep to what I feel like is 70, 75, 80 in my cadence. And I gotta do that manually. He's got a fancy thing over there that he can choose on the phone live, which is pretty neat.
Now it is pretty fidgety here to be controlling the cadence so much, but there's a cool option with this Enviolo is that you do have that control. So if you just want to feel the same way and you're not so concerned about overall speed, just want to have the same power going out, really dial in your cadence based off your terrain to keep your power output from yourself working the same amount consistently.
But he's pulling away now. I think it's that higher cadence he can, the higher gearing of that bike can just get him a little quicker on the flats. I would have to get into a pretty hard gear, and that would make me exert a lot more energy.
Well, as you can see, just a few simulations of some hill climbs, steeper, shorter, longer, and some undulating, kind of more distant stretches where you're able to really get up to speed and hold that speed. You know, Samson, for yourself, you did get a chance to ride this one on that steeper hill, but overall, you've been on the DM20 for a while. What's your perspective? You know, drive units have the same power.
So I thought that was gonna have more power, and I was a bit surprised when I passed you going up the sustained hill climb, but
to be fair, I was in a wrong cadence for this Enviolo, but we'll get back to that.
So I think that's bringing that up. That's one thing, is like, I know what to expect out of the 5 gears that this bike has.
Yeah.
The Enviolo over there, you're really gonna have to fine tune, or you want that to shift for your cadence. So if that's something you're not really attuned to, like, oh, I like to be at 77 or something like that, like, then you're gonna get a little confused or not be in the right one. This one, you know, you can just click and shift and you're good to go. That one's a little more of a guessing game unless you're very into the numbers, like cadence and all of that. So that's where I thought I knew where I could be going uphill and I could pass him on the sustained climb because I knew what gear would keep me at the cadence that I like to climb at. So I know you had trouble switching that cadence at first and then you figured it out a little bit, but what do you think about?
I'm gonna be honest here. It's been 3 weeks since I pedaled. I've been dealing with some sickness and I'm realizing my cardio's definitely declined very rapidly. That being said, I was aware of numbers, understanding that. I know this bike as a whole, the setup is a little bit more weight because of a front rack, maybe a few other little details here, and you know, 0.3 kilograms on the drive unit itself. And I have a lock on here, but I didn't expect the weight to really make much of an impact. Dialing in the Enviolo when it came to the hills, we weren't sprinting and racing each other, trying to see who could do it the fastest. We were doing it at average speed. These are commuter bikes. You know, we were trying to approach all of this with the mindset of, I'm going to work, right? So you don't want to show up all hot and sweaty to work. So I think refreshing my memory, getting comfortable with those hills, understanding what cadence felt good for where I'm at today as opposed to a month ago. Once I got that dialed, the bike takes over, and your speed might change by a mile, half mile an hour overall, but there's that short hills that if you're pedaling comfortably and in the right cadence, it's nice. Where I really noticed the difference between the two was when we got out onto the longer stretch, and I was able to drop that RPM down and really make it seem as though the bike had, honestly, quite a few more gears than the DM20. And it is finicky for sure, and there's that learning curve, and not everyone wants to open up an app and have that right there available or feel comfortable changing that on the fly. I myself, I feel okay doing that. I wish that you can have maybe some presets within that app and just quick tap a button, which maybe in the future, who knows? But for now, it doesn't exist. But being able to look at those hills, decide where they're at, how I feel. Oh, I'm pedaling actually a little bit too fast right now. I'm gonna drop that down, and I can hear Samson in the 20 kind of disappearing behind me a little bit. And I didn't feel as though I was working harder.
Yeah, I mean, 5 gears, so you're gonna be shifting. You don't have that big range, so you're gonna have to shift. It's gonna be a little bit higher of a jump when you're going from in your cadence level. It's like, you're gonna be maybe at 75, and then when you go, it's gonna be pretty tough. If you shift up, you could be dropping down to 50. But that's what's nice about the belt drive or the Enviolo over there, is like you can fine tune that, like you said. And yeah, that, more casual riding, that's great. But I think you still do need to know your numbers if you're gonna be doing that. But that's a rider's bike. I would say, like this one, this one's, anyone can get on this and it'll go. And they don't have to think about cadence. They're like, okay, it's got 5 speeds. 1's hard, 5's easy.
Yeah.
That works for us. And that's what's great about this. And I think, now that I know the motors are the same, I think that since you can dial it in, you can dial in that motor feel where you would get the power a little more than you can this 5-speed Nexus drive over here.
Yeah. And, something that comes to mind is what the guys at Orbea said to us a while back earlier this year, is that the Diem is a performance bike for performance people. This is a performance commuter. It's a performance urban bike. They wanted to translate that high-end, top-tier performance race machine bike that Orbea is famous for and translate it directly over into this, so that person feels equally confident and supported on their casual ride to work if they're not riding their $12,000 full carbon race bike. And we've talked about that a few times, and I think that for that person, spending the extra money getting this, that person likely is, yourself maybe. You're gonna be comfortable with adjusting your cadence and dialing that in on the fly as part of the technical aspect of riding this. For some of us that are as performance driven, want the same rider feel, the same comfort that the bike offers, but maybe a little bit less technical, that manual shifting, save a few bucks on the overall price point and get a bike that, from afar, they pretty much identical. I think that that's a key detail where using these two bikes to talk about the difference in power between the two drive units. We can get super technical and talk about, battery degradation, heat degradation, how things work all day, and maybe for a later date. But for now, just talking about those quick blips, real world experience of just getting out of your neighborhood to get to work, everything within loosely 5 miles or so from your house. How does that power translate over? And I think between the two, it really comes down to the type of person you are. Do you want to have the technical fine tuning even within a mile from your home? Or do you want a little bit more simplicity and just clicking through, simple gears? You get a belt drive on both, so you can get the comfortable frame in either one. So it's a pretty cool way to experience both platforms very quickly. We haven't been out here too long today, and we've been riding them both for a very long time, and have our own perspectives on the longer term of how these bikes ride. But really jumping between the two side by side, even in the quick blip going up the shorter but very much so steeper hill, I noticed quickly on that one that I felt the same power, but the difference of what gears were available to me, I could tell in my overall speed by the end how that would change, especially if that hill was longer.
Yeah, luckily it's not too long, because that hill is a brutal one. But yeah, from riding this bike and normally riding a bike that has gears, when I did hop on my time on the Enviolo, I was looking to shift gears.
Yeah.
So if that's something you don't want to do, then that's great. You never have to think about shifting gears with the Enviolo, but I just like to shift gears. It's just natural. I've been doing it for 2 decades.
Yeah.
So when I got on a bike that doesn't have that, when I'm just used to it, just a little learning curve right there, but nothing that you can't get used to, and actually could be nice that you don't have to think about it. I have ridden a few of the other Enviolo systems that are actually pretty great, like especially when you have cargo and whatnot. And it is cool not to have to shift, but you gotta get into that mindset first.
Well, hopefully this video is valuable to you and you learned something, and maybe it opened up your eyes that more money, more expensive, more might not actually be the right bike for yourself. Maybe something that offers very similar, but at a better budget might be the better option for yourself. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or would like to learn anything else, leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, if you're not subscribing, be sure to do so. We really appreciate the support, and it helps our channel continue to grow so we can do awesome fun videos like this for you, so we can help offer that information. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.